Good evening. Justice Secretary Boying Remulla says former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque's application for asylum in the Netherlands was denied. In a chance interview on Wednesday, June 18, Remulla says Roque went to Germany after he was denied asylum in the Netherlands. According to Remulla, Roque may then be extradited when the time comes. But Remulla also says there might not be a need to extradite Roque since his passport will be cancelled. Once his passport is cancelled, Remulla says Roque will become an undocumented alien. The Department of Justice chief says Roque will then be arrested by the International Criminal Police Organization or Interpol. However, Remulla says there is no definite timeline on when Roque's passport will be cancelled. Meanwhile, Roque tags Remulla's remarks as fake news. While Roque does not outrightly confirm the status of his asylum application, he denies the trip to Germany was related to it. He says the Germany trip was a pre-planned activity, adding he is now back in The Hague, Netherlands. Roque cited supposed political persecution in the Philippines when he applied for asylum in the Netherlands. Roque is the subject of an arrest warrant for qualified human trafficking. The warrant stemmed from a case filed by the DOJ against Roque for alleged involvement in the operations of Philippine offshore gaming operator Lucky South 99. The Commission on Elections 2nd Division is canceling the registration of the Duterte Youth party list. In an interview on Wednesday, June 18, Comelec Chairman George Garcia says the 2nd Division decided this by a vote of 2-1. He says the decision stemmed from a 2019 case filed against the organization. In 2019, youth leaders filed a petition seeking to nullify the group's registration status. The 25-page decision rules that the party list's registration is void from the beginning for non-compliance with the jurisdictional requirements of publication and hearing. The decision also says the party list committed grounds for the cancellation of registration under Comelec Resolution number 9366. Garcia says that if a party list's registration is cancelled, it's like it was never accredited in the first place. This includes losing the rights and privileges of an accredited party list. However, Garcia notes that Wednesday's decision is still not final and executory. He points out that Duterte Youth can file a motion for reconsideration within 5 days. Garcia says the Comelec en banc's decision can also still be appealed before the Supreme Court within 5 days. The proclamation of the party list was suspended due to its pending cases before the poll body. It ranked second in the party list race with over 2 million votes. President Bongbong Marcos wants the Philippine National Police and the Philippine Coast Guard to ensure confiscated illegal drugs do not find their way back into the market. In episode 2 of the BBM podcast released on Wednesday, June 18, Marcos acknowledges that the Philippines continues to have a drug problem. He says his marching orders to newly appointed PNP Chief General Nicolas Torre III were to shut down illegal drug entry points. The president says the administration is slowly working on going after big players in the illegal drug scene. He says he instructed the PNP and PCG to keep watch because he doesn't want seized drugs to end up back on the market. In the podcast, Marcos says it should come to a point where the public must feel safe. This initiative was also highlighted by Torre, who proposed deactivating police community precincts in favor of roving patrols as part of the agency's visibility drive. After assuming his position as PNP chief, Torre said increasing the number of arrests will be a key metric in the campaign against illegal drugs. He said the directive will not encourage illegal shortcuts but advocate for genuine and lawful actions. President Bongbong Marcos says he is confident that the government can sustain the 20 peso per kilogram rice program. In the second episode of his BBM podcast, Marcos says the production of palay in the Philippines is slowly increasing. He says the increase in production will lower the cost of production. Once production costs are lowered, the National Food Authority can sell the rice at a cheaper price. The president also assures farmers that low retail prices of rice will not come at the expense of their livelihood. Earlier, Marcos pledged to sustain his administration's affordable rice program until the end of his term in 2028. The sale of rice at 20 pesos per kilo was one of Marcos's campaign promises in 2022. The pilot run of the program started in the Visayas region. The test run will gradually be expanded to cover parts of Luzon and Mindanao. Under the Kadiwa ng Pangulo program, vulnerable sectors may buy rice at 20 pesos per kilo. The Philippine Coast Guard says 4 China Coast Guard vessels challenged several Filipino ships deploying fishing devices in the West Philippine Sea. In a statement, the PCG says the Filipino vessel's operation ran from Monday, June 16 to Wednesday, June 18. The operation involved deploying 20 floating aggregate devices in the Hasa-Hasa and Kanduli shoals, also known as Payao. The floating aggregate devices are used to attract and catch fish. The operation included 3 PCG vessels, 2 Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources ships, and several local fisherfolks boats. Throughout the operation, the PCG says Filipino vessels faced radio challenges and dangerous maneuvers from 4 China Coast Guard vessels. The agency says its crew responded with professionalism and composure. It adds that the Filipino radio operators maintained the Philippines' maritime presence with dignity and courage. The deployment of the floating aggregate devices aimed to improve the fish catch of Filipino fisherfolk. Beijing asserts sovereignty over the South China Sea, including most of the West Philippine Sea, but the 2016 arbitral award invalidated China's claim and upheld Manila's rights over the West Philippine Sea. The Department of Foreign Affairs says 21 Filipino government officials stranded in Israel are set to travel back home to the Philippines this weekend. In a message on Wednesday, June 18, DFA Undersecretary Eduardo De Vega says the stranded officials will fly home through Jordan. According to De Vega, there are 9 mayors, 4 vice mayors, 2 party list representatives, and 2 regional directors stuck in Israel. Additionally, 4 officials from the Department of Agriculture were also with them. However, the DFA refuses to identify the 21 officials out of respect for their privacy. The 21 officials were stranded after Israel closed its airspace and airports due to Iran's retaliatory air raids. Israel ambassador to the Philippines Ilan Floss earlier said 17 officials were part of a Philippine delegation conducting a study visit on dairy farming. Meanwhile, in a chance interview, Agriculture Secretary Francisco T. Laurel Jr. says the 21 officials arrived in Jordan on Tuesday night, June 17.
They will be arriving on Saturday, 5 a.m. They have, yun na nga, medyo nakakatakot nga. Ang nalaman ko, kinakita na yung mga picture na yung mga hotel nila, binomba. So, we try to find ways to get them out, either via Egypt or the option that they took is go land trip to Jordan. And from Jordan, fly out sila to really Qatar and back to Manila. Pero kagabi lang sila nakarating sa Jordan. Para ay salamat. Araw-araw kausap namin sila. We are on top of it and I just wish that the remaining part of journey is safe.
And these are the stories you need to know today. I'm Neil Mercado. Follow INQUIRER.net on Facebook, X, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. For more stories, visit INQUIRER.net. Good evening.